I was like a really good player.
Just the appreciation of basketball at all levels.
Yeah, I'm a player. I feel like I just gotta get on the court. You know, I feel like if I get the opportunity to get on the court, that's where the name comes from. Everyday guys and the everyday conversations we have. All right, guys, welcome to episode 2 of the Everyday Podcast. We have our first guest here today, Mr. Zelimir Stevanovic, also known as Coach Z, director and founder of IBSA, my lifelong trainer, coach, agent, and now good friend. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Do you want to introduce yourself
No.
and who you are and what your name is and
Do a little speech what I've done in life.
No, we're not doing that.
No, we're not doing that with him.
Shit.
Just questions, straight questions.
It'd be two.
We go right into the questions.
Right into the questions.
Okay. You want me to ask first?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. First question: why are you such an asshole? Nah. No, my first question. It's not even a question. It's more like you told me about how you started IBSA and how you picked the city and all that. You told me straight up. I looked after playing professionally for 20 years. I looked at the map, and I picked a city. Just random city. Ain't no way that's true.
Not random city.
Yeah.
I knew where I was gonna come. So I finished playing I think I was in France. Yeah, it was 2009. And then a friend of mine that used to play for the Raptors, he lived here. He was already in Canada. So I talked to him.
Yeah.
So I talked to him and we decided to do something together. And then I kind of knew the area because he was, where was he? I think he lived in Oshawa.
Yeah.
He lived in Oshawa.
Damn, so not close.
So before I arrived, like good 4 or 5 months before, I looked at the map, yeah, and he kind of like said, okay, this is where he lives. And our first location was in Kitchener because his sister and her husband lived there, and he was a Serbian priest, and he knew a bunch of people over in Kitchener. So then when I looked at the map, that's how I went along and literally visioned in my head and on the wall the locations of IBSA. And it wasn't even a random thing. It was like an hour and a half drive that I could actually drive myself or whoever else that would be employed in the company can drive. So then I saw the Hamilton, then Burlington, then Oakville, Niagara, Guelph, all these places. And I had that on the wall at my house before I ever came to Canada. I was never even here. I don't think I was ever in Canada in my life before, no.
But so was this something that, like, in your last couple of years of your playing career, you always knew you wanted to do? Or all of a sudden you just, like, got in contact with your friend and, like, it just happened, like, almost instantly? Or was it a plan that happened over the last...
I had two choices, really. I mean, one, I talked to a couple of my former coaches from the University of Pittsburgh, so I could have went back.
Okay. What is it, like a GA or something?
Well, GA assisted, but I always had access to like European players and stuff like that. So it makes you more valuable knowing people. So that was one option. And then the second option was this, that literally when him and I talked, I told him about what my idea was to go back after playing. He's like, well, here it's in Canada, like not like that time, like there was almost no training businesses and stuff like that and proper basketball teaching. And he, mentioned the idea that he's here. Why not? What do you think? And then I just kind of reworked it.
I mean, nowadays it's like so different, right? With all these freaking training companies and programs and whatever.
Training coaches, not companies.
Oh, sorry, my bad.
Important clarification.
But back then, like that was what, 2009?
2009, 2010.
There was only rep teams, and
I think OBA was back then was still in tournaments. There was no league, so you just do tournaments. Blessed Sacrament was like the best thing around on every level, every age group. including the tournaments that they organized. Like they literally, they were like the best in everything. So yeah, no training. They had rep.
Yeah.
They had rep training like they do now. I assume here and there was like a guy or a girl that was training somebody. Maybe I didn't know about it, but as far as like legitimate training, no, I don't think so. Right? I don't remember.
Yeah, no, good, because I was wondering, in my mind, like Ray said, nowadays there's so many training academies, coaches, whatever the case may be, and I was wondering, do you think you almost got lucky with when you came over? That like if you were to do this whole thing now, it'd be 10 times harder, or do you still think the kind of training and the person you are, you'd still find a way to make the business as successful as it's become now?
Well, I don't believe in luck, so I wouldn't call it lucky. Right timing and stuff like that. Yes, definitely. I don't know if it'd be easier. I mean, if you're not good enough, it's, you know, through in these 15 years of IBSA and what I've done, like, you know, it was a lot of coaches who came in and trainers and went down, a lot of clubs and up and down and all this other stuff. So not a lot of people and businesses sustain that time measurement of a business.
So why do you think you did? Why do you think you did?
Well, I think one, when I first came in 2009, I remember having conversations with like different people who were already part of ref, like some parents and some coaches. They were all, I remember everybody was saying, if you remember, they were like, wait, what? You're just going to do training?
Yeah.
Like, nobody's going to do that.
Yeah.
Like, everybody.
It was unheard of, yeah.
Everybody.
Yeah.
So wait, when are you going to play? And I'm like, we're not going to play. So then people were just like, no one will do that. No one will just come to train and that's it.
Yep.
Like, you're going to have to make a team. So for the first, I'd say, good 2-3 years of IBSA, all these rep teams and that were around in the area, like they all thought eventually we're going to have our own teams.
Yeah.
So there was always kind of like a competition, like a stand-up.
Yeah.
But then after a while, when they realized that it's never going to be a rep club, then our relationship actually changed and grew with these clubs because they realized that we're never actually going to be their competition and we're always going to work together with them. So yeah, it was a completely new concept. I still think it is. Like, I still think, you know, you've got all these trainers now. It's a different thing. I still don't think that a lot of trainers that you have now, they're training these kids in concepts that you should train like you, right? Like the way you train. And a lot of these kids are not on that level. Like, nobody trains these kids in basic things of how to read a situation or how to understand what the coach means. It's just like they learn a lot of these technical things, but almost zero. Obviously, they don't have time to teach them that anyway. How to actually understand the game. So you're, like I said, I was talking to somebody the other day in US, and I'm like, the training and the player development towards like technique, I think it's always rising, especially here. Kids can do a whole lot more, you know, like fadeaway shot, you know, all these little moves that nobody could do. Like, a lot of kids can do a lot of good stuff right now. Yeah. But to understand the game, it's in the opposite direction. Nobody knows anything. They're, you know, they come into the game and they do that. Like, you know, I've seen guys, especially even in US, you know, what they work on Thursday, then come Saturday, does those same moves. Yeah. Regardless of where the concept is it 3-on-3? Like, do you have to go under, or where the timing is, how far, like nothing. But I'm doing this.
I think that ties into the fact that a lot of these, like I said, the amount of trainers that there are now, a lot of people are less credible in being able to be trainers. So like with you played pro however many years in Europe and you understood the basic concepts and you actually had the information to teach kids. But I feel like if a trainer doesn't have the understanding himself, how is he going to relay that to a kid?
I do think it's different though. Like, a lot of people play in Europe.
Yeah.
But they come down here. Like, we talked about it before too. Playing and coaching is a different thing. Training is a different thing. Yep. So playing in Europe, you know, getting used to the decision-making skill and whatnot, and then teaching that is also a different thing than like playing with those skills. You know what I mean? So how, I guess, what was your like inspiration to make an academy like this, and your academy's focus is more, okay, decision-making skill and keeping it simple rather than all these dribbling moves, right?
Well, I still believe that's what plays a game. when you really think about it.
Yeah.
Like, if you look at the NBA, to me, that's, if you think you can, like, if you can somehow be an NBA, this guy's going to be an NBA player guaranteed, so teach him that, and this guy's going to, because in the NBA, all that stuff works.
Yeah.
Like, you got to have that one move, two move, you got to get to a spot, regardless, you're shooting that shot no matter what happens. Like, certain guys are getting a certain amount of shots no matter what happens. Defense doesn't exist. In the NBA, I still think, other than a one-on-one skill of a player that a lot of these kids now do, that's pretty much it. You got that one-on-one skill, I beat you one-on-one, I'm scoring.
Yeah.
Because there's no help side, there's a rotation, there's no any other teaching around it.
Yeah.
When you go college or Europe or anywhere else, and it doesn't really mean anything. Like, you're not gonna, you can step back all you want. Like, they have scouting reports, they've got different things that go around the game that's similar to like an NCAA, right? Where there is players too that take more shots than the other players, but like these like, you still have to stay within in the game of the team and what everybody else is trying to do. I think it's, nowadays you got these kids, you've done AAU back in the day.
Yeah.
AAU is getting worse and worse every year. Like, and here's the thing though, like and I was talking to a guy, one of the guys, an agent, and the thing is that as the progression of these new kids and their level of technical ability to do things, so athleticism is never been big. Everybody jump, everybody dunk.
Okay.
The shooting, the dribble, drive, like inability, just one-on-one is unbelievable, right? Defense is worse and worse every single year.
Yeah.
Like, no one even goes back anymore on defense. No one even scouts anybody.
I mean, it's true. Yeah.
Like, AAU has become a walking session. Like, I understand, okay, one-on-one, like no one works on one-on-one defense. Everyone just looks to score. And that's the part I don't understand, like how, like, I mean, obviously, these guys don't care about what NCAA needs. But then you go to college.
Yeah.
That's all they talk about.
I know.
Can you defend?
Like, such a crazy disconnect.
It's the biggest disconnect ever. Like, in Europe, for example, when you play U16, U14, it's not a senior, but it's about 70% of the ideology is the same. You got to you got to play defense, you got to play team ball, you got to do this. And then, right, here is like, you do one thing, and then you come to college is completely different.
I know you talked about it.
Yeah.
I think a big part of that is social media.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Like, I think you watch those videos. I mean, social media was obviously, like, I went to college 2015, 2016 was my senior year. So there's still social media. But now I go on like YouTube, I look up some mixtapes. It's kids like pointing in the camera when they make like a move. Everything is built towards having a clip to like put somewhere. And I think that drives the whole, defense won't sell, but crossing up a guy and that sells. And I think that plays a role into the nature of AAU basketball now.
One of the best sayings from Coach Z was, nobody cares about scoring. Nobody cares about those eye emojis.
Remember, like, they put that fire stuff. Oh yeah, 4 points for scoring.
Like, but that's what these social media outlets promote, right?
Yeah.
They don't care about a guy who's making the right play or is a dog on defense. If the guy does something crazy on offense, they go, oh, like, we're gonna promote that.
Yeah.
Right. And then when the kids are always on the phone, and when they see stuff like that, they go, oh, like, maybe I should be like that.
Yeah.
But it's like, and also, how many coaches promote those types of highlights and dunks and whatnot versus just making the right play?
Yeah.
Right. That's the biggest issue, in my opinion, when it comes to this level of basketball. Like, when you're trying to develop guys, and when these guys are trying to get to the next level, are you telling them to do the right things, or are you just telling them to do highlight things, right?
Yeah. Here's what I have to, my son, for example, is 15 years old now. But it depends of what the parent does, what the coach does, and it depends, like, in the development of a player, in terms of like what you emphasize, what you want your child or a player to do over time, right? So when he first started, like 2-3 years ago, he's like, do those highlight. He'll show, look at this guy. I'm like,
yeah,
can you imagine?
Yeah.
He shows me highlight of another kid, and I'm just like, yeah, okay. Like, to me, that's just like, I won't even look at it. But then he really likes Kyrie Irving, for example, and another high school player. I can't remember what it was. So he would show me these things. Look what he does here. Look what he does here. Look what he does here. So I'm like, that's never gonna happen.
It's not gonna happen in like
I'm like, you're never gonna be that.
Yeah.
Like, and then it's like, I'm trying, like, I gotta be so negative, and I'm like, I'm not negative. That's not basketball.
Yeah.
So what do you think? I'm like, Kevin Pangos. And he goes, what? I'm like, find Kevin Pangos highlight tape. Young or older. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And watch that.
Honestly, for a comparison for him.
Yeah. From my son? Oh, yeah. Of course, like, Kevin Pangos. I remember when I came here in 2009, I went to watch a game with a friend of mine from Kitchener, and Kevin Pangos' team from somewhere. Bill Newmarket. Yeah. Bill, his dad, great guy, by the way.
Yep.
He was, I think he was coaching. Kevin played, and I played against the big tall guy that went to Stanford, Serbian guy.
Oh, Stanford.
He went to Stanford.
It's like Yankovic or something.
No.
He went to Hawaii, I think.
No. He went to Stanford. Big tall guy. Vlad was his coach.
Oh, was his last name Kravic? Dejan?
No. He went to, that's not him.
Oh, never.
Anyhow, so they're playing against this team, right? And Kevin Pangos has just some bunch of average kids. And I watched him, and I remember, like, that game finished, and I was like, that's the best player I've seen here by far.
Yeah.
And at that time, I've seen even Wiggins play a little bit, and I went to all these games, the tournaments. Yeah. I was here for like 3 months. I went and watched everything, right? Jamal was there back then. So you look at Kevin Pangos, for example, like, I think he had maybe 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 points. A couple of teams, nothing much. But man,
He just controlled everything. Yeah.
he had those other guys look like NCAA all-stars, and they would just catch and shoot guys. Like, he would rip people apart, man. So going back to what I said, I tell my son, I'm like, Kevin Pangos in 3 years ago. Of course, he's like, what? Hell no. I'm like, what?
Probably think he sucks.
Well, he looked at the video, he's like, I don't want to be that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
So next year, new player came in. I'm like, Kevin Pangos, man. So time goes by.
Yeah.
About 2 months ago, now he's, about to go to grade 9, has done extensive AAU in USA in here, seen this, seen that. And I'm like, Kevin Pangos, man.
So
Kevin fucking Pangos, that's how you play basketball. Now he's like, that's actually true. And then he starts watching. I'm like, you see how he comes across, you see how he dribbles the ball, you see how he pulls up, you see how well he plays within his size, you see how he understands this and that, you see this, see that. Now he's like, obviously, Kevin is not his favorite player all of a sudden, but if you constantly repeat these things, the whole point I'm trying to say is if you repeat these things to your kid, to your player, eventually, like, the stupidity of the Instagram will stop and some common sense will kick in. The problem you have here is that 99% of trainers are the Instagram guys too, and not the Kevin Pangos type guys.
Yeah. That's
the problem, right? This is why I think it's the difference is how I always saw basketball. Is to me, that was, I'd still think I haven't seen a better player than him.
Yeah.
And Jamal was amazing, different. I wouldn't say it's better than Jamal, but like Jamal, I don't even mention him, man. The guy's an NBA All-Star, so let's just put that to the side.
Yeah.
But you look at, if you constantly preach this to these players, they'll get it. Like my son, in the end, he still likes all these other guys, and he's not gonna look up Kevin, but he sees, okay, that's the game. I'm like, yeah, you see how he comes off with the ball, how he comes off screens, how he defends, what he's done in Gonzaga, how he picked the university, right? The right university to go to. So it's that's what I think the problem is. Social media is absolute cancer for those kids.
But so what you were saying holds true to how you run IBSA. Even me growing up, you constantly preach discipline, order, a certain way to do things. And I know you played professionally, but a lot of guys who play professionally don't even in their careers have those same values. So where did you understand that discipline and a certain way of like appreciating the fundamental side of basketball will lead to success? Is that something you figured out by yourself as a player, or did you have a coach who?
Myself,
Yeah.
I've some through business towards the end of my career,
Mhm.
looking at both, like growing up in Serbia and being with those coaches, then go to USA, being with these coaches, then go like France and these places where I've been and seeing those coaches. So kind of like seeing the middle, like where, in Serbia is damn near military style.
Yep.
Just they, they kill your body. It's just it's insane amount of training and everything. Then you go to USA, it's more games. Then you go to like a French or different European countries where it's a lot loose, like
Yeah.
socially, and it's more like more try to be more fun with it all. So I think it's a combination of everything. Where lots of reading, lots of what I looked at it is I always thought that play a business like this should be run like a computer company.
How so?
Just fundamental how the business is built, how the marketing, like why does it have to be a basketball academy and just do basketball stuff? Like the same way the setup, the organizational setup of the business and how everything, locations and all this stuff, like it's no different than Starbucks when you know how to do it. You need the right people, and in the end, you need the right product. You need the right product, like coffee, right? Like Ray and I always talk about this all the time. Coffee is the most important thing. So you can have, that's why I said that many of these players that we had, people, coaches, come and go, and their, club is strong, and then it's not strong, but that's not the measurement. It's never going to sustain time because, you got some good players, then you do this, then you don't have some good players, forget it.
Yeah.
Like it has to be the steady discipline of what you want to do with where you're going.
I mean, obviously, IBSA is wildly successful now, but sitting here and thinking about, what you built, if you could go back in time, is there something you do differently, or you would literally take the exact same steps to get to where you are now?
Well, I will never have you on the team.
It's probably the best decision you ever made.
What I do not really though. Oh, nothing that I would say I would do. I mean, maybe some small things that like fundamentally that I've obviously made mistakes with, but nothing like big that I can remember that can be just like, oh yeah, I would do that differently. No, now people ask me, oh, why didn't you start this in USA? No, Canada's like a perfect place.
Yeah.
Perfect place for this. Even now, like now that we're expanding into US and I'm down there, it's still the best place for me at least to run a good business and have people support it and all that stuff.
I do think like for a lot of successful people, the adaptability skill is super important.
Agreed.
Oh yeah.
Right? Like adapting to the time and location, wherever you are,
Yeah.
who are you, who your demographic is, who you're talking to. So when I look at you, for example, I've been with you for a long time, right? Coaching different groups. Obviously, I wasn't there when he coached you guys. When he coached you guys.
Would have been a
then-
deadly combination.
Yeah, it was like a generation after you guys, and then we started coaching girls as well, and then you could kind of see, and people will say, "Oh, you softened up and all that," but it's just different people,
Yeah.
different coach, different players, different day and age. Obviously, I think some of the things that you've said to a guy like you,
Mhm.
if you said it now.
Probably.
But it's like the coaching girls, coaching girl side was a complete shock for us when we did it,
Oh yeah.
right? Because it was like you couldn't say the same things anymore.
Yeah.
Right. So I think it took a while for us to. It took probably a year, whole season for us to realize it's got to be different.
And then, with the you definitely, like you said, adapting to not changing what you do.
Yeah.
Right? Adapting. It's changing what you do. Then look, Ray and I adapted maybe, up to 25%.
Yeah.
But 75% is still the same.
Yeah.
That's why majority of people, in from the governing body to everybody else in girls basketball were like, this guy's insane. These guys, they run these girls to possible, like what they say to them, how they yell at them, like no one has seen that before.
Yeah.
But people underestimate how tough girls actually are and how much probably mentally stronger they are than boys. At least the girls that Ray and I had in the program, they were. So, but you definitely have to adjust what you say.
I mean,
what you do.
I mean, now that we're getting into the coaching
If I go
part,
back on those, yo.
like for example, so for
Well,
those,
you're younger too, though.
Yeah.
I was younger.
for those people that don't,
Give us some examples.
let me say for those people that don't know, Z, you have a very unique coaching style to Canada, not unique to Europe, unique to
That's
Canada.
true. Yeah, good point.
Unique to Canada. And, you know, whenever people ask me about what my experience was like with you from when I started to when I ended up going off to college, a big thing that I say and the line I use is that one of Z's major philosophies was that he kind of identified talented players and had the whole belief of you need to break someone down and then build them back up. That was your thing where
If they break.
if they break. Yeah. And a lot of people don't necessarily understand the philosophy behind that.
Well, I wouldn't say you purposely break them.
You
down.
try
Step on them.
to see how they react.
Well, not just to see how they react. You step on them the same way they're going to get stepped on later on if they're those big stars. Like,
Mhm.
you know, and you step on them and you're a lot harder on them than you are on everybody else. You push them more. You know, I was always a believer in you want to build your, what's the word? Ray and I talk about this all the time. Your coaching authority. You build that on the bench. You know, most of the guys go out there and, you know, even in NCAA, right? Like, yeah, I got my stars and all this stuff. No, you go right after the stars. Like, you go right after them.
And I think that's the lost art here in North America.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I go after the best player first.
Yeah.
Always. And then the second and the third. And then, but it's just, can you handle it or can you not handle it? Like but nothing is like fake or anything. It's, you know, like all these boys, girls that we had, like, yeah, it hurts. It hurts to hear it. It hurts to be a part of it sometimes, but it's the truth.
Yeah.
It's the truth. Like what we said about the players who didn't make it, they didn't make it just for those reasons that we were repeating to them for years.
Yeah.
Right? That's, you know, we had some really, really talented guys that actually didn't make it, and had some really, really guys that weren't that good in grade 9 and 10, like you or Fee.
Yeah.
And that ended up making it big. So I think it's, you know, I wouldn't say you purposely tried to break them down, but I think the system needs to be really, really tough and disciplined. And I think people feel like, oh, you know, they're trying to break me, like he or she is trying to break me down because they're just not used to it. It's just it's the discipline that you need to do or don't.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that. Like, you know, I wouldn't say you're trying to break them down, because if I tried to break you down, you'll go worse.
So did you ever like I'm not trying to make it seem like you were some awful dictator coach, but you obviously were very strict. At any point were you like, you know, maybe on a random, when I was in 10th, 11th grade, or any of the players on a random, you'd come home and be like, man, maybe I was doing a little too much? Or like, did you always know exactly what you're doing was for a purpose and you always kind of had an idea? Or did you also look back, you're like, maybe I'm being too hard?
Always. So, yeah. Especially after when Ray and I met, and I wasn't coaching alone, and then we talked about this a lot of times. Like, yeah, it was too much, was not too much. Talking, we would have, you know, always. Otherwise, like, you never improve. Like, you know, think about it though. A lot of those things, you know, you as a coach, especially younger coach, you lose it too. It's not like you're out there, oh, I'm going to plan this out and I'm going to do it at 6 o'clock. No, you lose it yourself. So you got to improve too. So, you know, people say I softened up. I don't think I softened up. I improved in relationships with people. Like, otherwise, it's also hard it was a lot harder on me to coach back then, because it takes, you know, that whole anger and aggressiveness. It takes a toll on you too, right? So I remember Ray and I would finish games or practices and go after, you know, somebody, a girl. We were Kings, we had both, right? But then this is how do we bring them back? Yeah. Like, what do we do in the next 2-3 days through meetings, jokes, minutes on the course to get them back? But see, this is the thing though. Like, that's one thing that we've done always is, and even in your case when you guys were younger, like for every like hit, you gotta have 2 of these, right? So you might, but people don't remember this. Like
Just remember,
they remember
of course.
which is fine.
Yeah.
But his personal relationship with these players, like yourself, X amount of years later, proves that. Like, we don't really have anybody, oh my God, that guy ruined my life. Like,
Yeah.
it's not working like that.
Well, that's the question for both of you. Both of you are strict, very disciplined coaches, and why do you feel like even after all the things you may have said or the negative kind of ways you've approached situations, like why do you think you guys have such good relationships with the players after all of this? Because I don't know many coaches who every single person who's been on, at least on my graduating year, who was with you, everybody has a good relationship with you. Everybody speaks good things about you. Yeah, they say the stories of how strict you were, but in the end, when it's actually talking about Z as the person, everybody says great things. Why do you think it wasn't like lost on people to be overcome by the anger that you showed, and rather see that the things you were doing were for a good reason?
It's simple. But I'll take the girls, for example.
Yeah.
Any of these girls, Dawn, Laura, Abby, any of these girls that we've been to, Summer, anybody, right? I don't have to talk to them a year, 2 years. But they know, like, when they call me, if they need anything, guaranteed I'll do whatever I can. Now, 3 years from now, 5 years from now, 25 years from now, back then when they played for me.
Yeah.
I might tell you all kinds of things in that locker room, but the next morning, if you need something, anything, always. So care. It's
You talked
care about the kids.
I think
like, actually.
Yeah, true.
Not the players, the kids, the people. Not the players, oh yeah, I'm trying to get this here and there. No, just the kid, the girl, the boy itself. Like, for example, when we ran, like, I would have thousands of meetings with, for example, especially with the girls, because, like during the practice, after practice, like, and they knew whenever any of them wanted to meet after, always
able to.
Don't say anything during practice.
Yeah.
Like, when I talk, and they start, I'm like, no, don't, like, well, I have a question. I don't care about your question.
But afterwards,
you want to talk about anything, 90% of the time not related to basketball. Always.
One of the boys that we had said this right thing. He said, and he's been with us for 3 years now, and after they're all done with us, we actually had to talk about it, right? Like, how did you guys
individually or as a team?
No, just on the court. And I was like, how did you guys deal with some of the vulgar stuff that I said to you guys?
Yeah.
And he says, well, one, we all got it the same. It didn't matter if I was.
I think that's if I was you're right.
13th best player,
you're right.
Best player, starter, sixth man. It didn't matter.
Yep.
Right. We all had the same standards. And two, like, I knew that you had the best interest in me.
Yeah.
Right. Like, and it wasn't one of those things where it was forced. It was, you can kind of feel it as a player.
Yeah.
Right. Like, whatever we say to these kids, if they feel like, oh, the guy has the best interest in me,
yeah,
like, I'm just gonna take it.
Yeah.
Right. So I think that is rare though, right?
Don't underestimate the kids of any age and what they can see in adults too. Like, they can see whether or not they can see through you like that. If you're in it for the team, if you're in it for your own career, if you're in it to win it so you can go somewhere.
Yeah.
If you're in it to, like, the players on all levels can easily see that. A lot of people being like I said, not
as a player, I agree 100%.
Oh yeah, you can see that. Like I told all the girls when we were at Kings, I'm like, so what, after Kings, like, where you go? I'm like, nowhere. Once I finish Kings, that's it.
Yeah.
And that's it. Like, I was never gonna go, let me go to some other school.
Yeah.
Or let me be an assistant coach no.
Yeah.
Kings, girls, done.
And we were talking about this as a staff in IBSA too, like, training kids that are like 8, 9 years old. Maybe they're not advanced in basketball, and we were talking about our IBSA coaches too, that kids can genuinely feel if you like them.
Yeah.
Like if you as a coach like them as as kids.
Yeah.
Or I'm just like bothered by kids.
Yeah.
So when people ask me, or probably you too, it's like, how do you have such good relationships with the kids? To me, I just go to, you just have to care about them.
Yeah.
But
It goes a long way.
But yeah, but it's like it's not easy. It sounds simple, but it's not easy to just
Either have
like
it or
the
you
kids
don't.
and care about the kids.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But if you do really care, like it just shows, and they can feel it, in my opinion.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh yeah, every time they can feel like, like they can. I've seen guys now, like through you and all the guys, X amount of people that we have in NCAA, they can see when they're just pushing their own contract. The coaches,
100%.
they playing the game, they playing the players, they playing the boosters, they playing the AD, they playing everybody for their next contract.
Yep.
Like people can see that,
100%.
let alone in professional waters, right? So that I think that's the main thing that you gotta. Then when you go back and see, like, then they can take being harder on them and yelling at them more and all that stuff, because we never had a girl leave Kings.
Yeah.
And they were like, oh my God, this and that. Like, they never would, because they know the truth.
Yeah. This is a question actually for both of you, because we talked about it a little bit, but you guys were able to adapt with the changing times. You had different teams, different cultures of how you could speak to players, but both of you had the opportunity of coaching boys and girls. What was the biggest difference from a coaching standpoint between coaching men and women?
Missing layups. Oh God. For who? No, man. What's the biggest difference? I'll get back to the layups. The biggest difference? I mean, I really enjoyed, before it was the boys and all that stuff, it was your generation and you, Fiander, and all these guys. Then it was Luca Coleman and these guys, Robert. It's like, you had all these really, really good players, a lot of NCAA pros and all that. So obviously that was great and all that. But I really enjoyed coaching girls. But I don't know, is it because of, a lot of people ask you, like, how can you coach girls? Like, how something that, like, especially a guy like you,
Everyone had those questions when you first got into
Remember? Right? So I don't know.
How is Z coaching well? Yeah.
So I don't know, I don't know. Like, I think, is it the girls that we had in our program? But I really, I don't know if other girls are different, or because I hear all kinds of stories, this and that. Like, I'm like, I never had any of those issues. Like everything we've done at Kings, for example, with the girls program, like, no issues. All great people, great relationships, and really no issues in terms of any of this. Like I said, like on the court, maybe girls are easier to teach, I would say.
Like listen more.
Listen more. They analyze more. Yeah. So they're smarter on the court, but that kind of
like an overthink a little
downfall. They're not a little bit, like a lot. Guys can move on from certain things and pick up on the next. The girls have a harder time letting go of certain things. Confidence is different.
So you as a coach have to be more conscious of that?
Oh yeah, emotional intelligence is higher. Therefore, way more emotional too.
Yeah.
So you really have to. We ended up towards, I think I was like 2 years in, when Ray was like mostly in charge of the tactical things around the team, like what we play on offense, defense, just what plays we run and all. Like he did all that stuff. He even did all the substitutions.
Yeah.
And I was more that.
So he did all the coaching, and you just
he didn't even know the plays.
Yeah, he goes, he did all the plays, all the stuff.
I would call a lot. He goes in the court. I'm like, what is this play?
Ray just sitting there with no.
No, he was nice. So he would stop. The other times I'm like, why'd you put her in? We would fight on the bench. Dude, but it was so good because, but then it allowed me to just focus on the girls and how they feel and, what they experience in the court, because they're up and down pretty big during the game.
Yeah.
But again, it worked really well, and I liked it. I think any of those things that we done with the girls program after would have worked with any men's team, as he's proven. Running Polaris for the past 2-3 years, winning the coach of the year and all that stuff. So he's proven that stuff works on the boys program. So it would allowed us, when you split um, the coaching that way. I think that's why I always say having assistant coaches is probably the most important thing. Like say, oh, Calipari's assistant to make $1 million. It's like, oh, why?
Worth it.
He'll pay them. He'll make them $3.
Yeah.
He'll pay them $3 because they're it.
Yeah.
Right. It's not like he can't coach without them, but they're it. Right. So when he did all that stuff, and then it allows you more to just be with the players and see the players, especially on the girls' side, deal with all the issues that come up and have a clearer picture, especially during the game, because you need too much of them.
I definitely think you have to be emotionally more intelligent to coach girls.
Yeah.
Right.
Understandably so.
Yeah. When you walk into practice and you see on the girls' side, when you walk into practice, you see 3 different groups on different locations. You go, oh, something's got to be up. Something's got to be up. We gotta do something about it.
Yeah.
When you walk into a boys' practice and you see 3 groups, it's because
You don't think boys will. Yeah.
they're just at 3 different locations. Cam's picking up the ball, like the other guy's changing, like it's just different.
Interesting.
Right. So I think, but like the side that when you see 3 groups, you go, oh, something's got to be up versus, oh, like whatever.
Having the ability to notice that.
Having the ability to notice, like almost like even the facial expression and even like how they move and figuring out, oh, there's something wrong, right?
Yeah.
And then like pointing that out in it could be a group setting or in a one-on-one setting, but that is the difference, right? Like I even remember, like, we had a coach on our staff. He coached with us for 2-3 years. He kind of saw us coaching, especially him yelling and all these things. And then when he got his own team, he tried to do the same thing, just yelling, right? But he didn't see...
He missed the emotional part.
Exactly. Yeah. Right? And it backfired on him, right? So I think you definitely have to be...
In a boys' basketball, you can win. In a men's basketball, you can win with 2 dudes not talking. Don't like each other, never speak. But they're going to be like, you know what? Let's go out there and win.
Yeah.
In girls' basketball, when they don't like each other, when there's 2 people that don't like, they're bigger players, you can never win.
Really? You just can't move past that on the court? It seeps into everything?
Everything. So in girls' basketball, they're unity and everybody together. It's bigger than in boys' basketball.
Would you like coaching more at the end of the day, men or women?
No, that's a good question.
If you could only coach one?
I don't know. That's tough. I don't have an answer.
Really?
Which one I liked more? I think
which one gave you more?
I think that depends on I don't think you can do that by, is it men's or women's basketball? I think it's a team that you're at. It's like some teams you hate coaching and some teams you like coaching.
No, I do think that we learned so much though from coaching girls.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Like, then that's kind of what I'm doing now. It's not so much just straight up just going at them.
Yeah.
Like kind of understanding their emotion too. Like men's and boys, and I mean they got emotions too, right?
Yeah.
So you kind of you're more mindful of that part, right? So I think that's why it's been pretty successful coaching boys, because we kind of combine the discipline and the whole emotional intelligence side of it.
But you also can't, looking at the last 3-4 years, like you also can't go, I'm not saying that you did or we did, but like going too much into that, like it's, you get like all the players that we have and played for us and all that stuff, we have that good relationship, we care about them. Like we went over that at the beginning of the podcast. But sometimes I wonder, like looking at, okay, in Canada, yeah. But you're looking at America, for example, and you go to play in USA, and then you come out of this system, for example. Like I also think being tough on them and not too much having that relationship is at least if they're going to USA, maybe even better, because you go down there, and I talk to most of our guys and girls on the phone and all that stuff. The biggest thing that they see is these guys don't care about us, and they don't. Like 98% of NCAA coaches don't really care about players like that.
Yeah.
That relationship is not wanted, needed.
I think that's the big thing. It's not needed.
Yeah, it's just, they say it's a business. It's a business, but it's not a business. It's just like, the coaches looks on themselves. You've seen it yourself. The coaching staff is like this.
Yep.
They get fired together, get hired together. They hold that locker room together. So I think they, in a lot of cases, like I've had players who like, and what do you think I should do? I'm like, ask the coach for a meeting, right? And the coach like, no, we're not meeting. Meet the assistant. Like, so, and the assistant will just sit with them 10 minutes on the side of the court. On the bench, and a little bit of talk about this or that, not really listening, and then repeating the same thing. Oh, just typical American thing that they always say. All these NCAA coaches, no, just trust the process. Just trust the process, be patient. Trust the process, be patient. Forever, right? So they don't really try to understand the players. They just think that the players should do what they do.
Yeah, and it gets even worse at the pro level.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So that's why I think I would say we had success where we've done is a mix of that. Is like, it's one of those things that, yes, I do care about you and we can talk about many things, but shut your mouth and do this at the same time.
And I think that's something that I tried to do differently with this program, was kind of letting them to be independent a little bit, right? Like, how many times when we were Kings, how many times when you or I, or more you, didn't show up and the girls and boys just didn't give a shit in practice,
No.
right? I think there's pros and cons to it. I think your method of caring for them and then you being there, I think you probably sent more kids to the next level. And I think my method of kind of letting them be independent, you probably don't send as many kids to the next level, but maybe there's a chance that the guys who go there could be a little bit more successful in a way, so that because they're like thinking for themselves a little bit more, right? And that's kind of the conversation that I have with Steph, my assistant coach. But I don't know what's right or wrong. Obviously,
what's that's something different to doing with Polaris. What's a big thing you learned from Z that you've implemented into your program, being on his staff for however many years before you started the academy?
Like something that you said before, just the whole discipline side of it. This is like, I think, making them understand what's right or wrong and having them to make decisions for themselves. Like that's huge, right? Because we always talk about they're with us for 2, maybe 3 hours a day. The rest of the time, they're going to be by themselves.
Yeah.
Now, it's up to them to decide what's right or wrong and make decisions based on that.
Yeah.
Right? So, whereas I feel like a lot of teams and a lot of kids nowadays, if the coach is not there, you're probably going to make wrong decisions, right? Because they don't have the ability to think for themselves. And this is why when we talk to players, it's always important that they express their feelings and express like how they feel, so they can almost have that skill set.
It's kind of similar to what you did with us. You let us express how we felt, right?
Yeah. What? You got to talk every 3 months. 3 months.
Some of the stories, man, to this guy.
What? You did. Like, I think it's the combination of parents, system here, school. It's because, like the no-fail policy. Parents are really, really busy with their life, and so what they look at is just the emotional side. Like, is the child emotionally happy? Like, if it's not happy, oh, let me go to the coach, let me change teams, let me do this. Then no one really believes in, okay, it's not happy now, but it'll be better next year. Well, this is a process. Year 1, he's not going to play, and he's going to learn how to sit on the bench, and then right? They don't really believe in that. It's just it's not that they don't believe in it. Like, the school doesn't really emphasize it like that. It's everybody is just everybody gets a trophy type of thing, right? And then 2, they they're so concerned with their emotional well-being and being happy and all this other stuff that they just go from team to team to team, coach to coach to coach. Parents will get in arguments. They will never support a coach against the child,
Yeah.
right? They will always support the child. Yeah, you're right. Like, and they will just look at it through this one lens of my child emotional well-being. They can't see that the kid is actually not as good as the other kids. Oh no, he needs to play.
Yeah, they're blinded by it.
So there is a little bit of that. There is a little bit of the, obviously the system. There's definitely the social media these kids come through, and a lot of them get disappointed, man. Like you'll see, like, kids will look at these videos and all that stuff. Oh, I'm not good enough by just looking at a video, and I'm like, that's a highlight video. Like, and my mom looks good in the highlight video.
Yeah.
Anybody looks good in the highlight video, right?
Yeah.
So that's one of the things that these kids have it hard almost nowadays, because it's too much stuff that they see every day that they compare themselves to. So they, together with their parents and somewhat of the school system, they don't really have that perseverance to wait. In grade 9, I did this. Like, for example, you in grade 9, you didn't play at all. In grade 10, you played a little more. In grade 11, you really played. In grade 12, you were the best.
Yeah.
People don't wait for that anymore. They're like, oh, I'm not happy in grade 9. My child is at home crying, therefore I go that way.
Yeah.
And I blame her for everything.
So what's the solution to that? Is it just going to get worse and worse, or is there a way for parents who are trying to bring their kids up?
Parents have to improve, coaches have to improve. I don't know. I don't necessarily know if it's gonna, kids just, like, when you look at US, for example, like, you would think it's like, oh yeah, the kids down there do all kinds of stuff. Like, they're way more disciplined down there. Way more disciplined. Yes sir, no sir. Yes ma'am, no ma'am. Like, they're way more disciplined. Way more. The schools down there are like, you late 4 times to middle school my son went. You're late. I think you late to class 4 or 8 times in a year. You don't go to prom. That's it, man. You can't just show up. Attendance is like, you missed 30 classes and you don't go. No. I don't know if it's the prom or the dance or whatever, like whatever something. So they don't go.
I
They don't get to go. Like, you don't wear that little thing around. You get detention at lunch. You sit in like a little cubicle. So they're detention for everything. So that's a lot more discipline, I would say, than here. So I think it's a combination of that, and plus the parents being, I wouldn't necessarily say, they're not less tougher on their kids. It's just, but then also, to credit the parents, in their defense, you got so many now programs, people, coaches. This guy says this guy says that. There's somebody's go, well, Ray doesn't know anything. I know everything, and then it's not easy. It's definitely not easy. What's the solution? The solution is like you do overseas, for example. Once you start paying these kids at 14, 15 years old, then parent is relevant.
Right.
But the parents pay for these kids to play. They pay for the schools. They pay for the AU teams. They pay for rep. They pay for this. They pay for that. Right? So they're investing money. So they don't want to invest money and see also crying at home every day because I'm not playing, for example. It's a hard thing to see. But if you don't invest anything, and when they go to NCAA, some of these kids don't play, but parents don't complain.
Yeah.
You're going to school, you're getting an education. So it's a tough one. It's not an easy thing. You can't just say, oh, kids got softer. You can say that, but I don't think it's just that.
So what do you do as Zol? Because he's going through the whole thing now. Are you vetting the AU programs he wants to play for? Is he just going where his friends are going? Like, how do you deal with that? Especially being in America.
One, internally with him, I blame him for everything. There you go, coach. No,
it's always
no, it's you. A coach won't let me shoot those shots. No, here Jamal Murray is the proof, and I mention Jamal to him all the time. Not because when he was young, like, Jamal would do his stuff no matter what. Yeah, like, you can be whoever you want to be, and you can do whatever you want to do. Even when he was with us for a couple of months, maybe a couple of months, or how long was he was. I could tell he was gonna do what he does. Yep. And then he was for me to adapt. I could tell right away. And most guys will adapt.
Correct.
So it's you. You have your game. You run it. You train. You play. You shoot your shots. You deal with your confidence. There is no coach in there. The easiest thing is to blame the coach. It's you. And I always say, if you destroy it, no player in the world has destroyed everybody in practice that didn't play. So I blame him for everything. But internally now, but on the outside, I make sure that he's at the right people that teach the right, discipline, values, style of play, and all this other stuff, right? Like, I think it's crucial nowadays. Like, for example, EYBL, they say EYBL, to me, that means nothing, right?
Yeah.
Like, so a lot of people will get caught up in that and just to go to the best possible programs, exposure. I'm like, what exposure? Like, it's, doesn't mean anything. What's exposure in the end? It's who you know and who you don't know in the end.
Yeah.
There you go.
I think got a lot of good stuff there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so.
Cool.
Okay, this guy is here.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for coming on. A lot of good conversation. First official guest. I think it was good.
Can I should tell a mixed story. Can we tell you a story when you didn't make a top 100 out?
You can go ahead. Is it still running?
No, okay. Remember when you didn't make that one?
I remember it very well.
You don't even know the story, do you?
Right. And you can edit this out. But that's actually a good example of,
It is actually.
of
It is
a
a great.
player
Yeah.
and the connection that him and I have, exactly.
Yeah.
So you can edit to around this, right? But he was with me since grade 7, right?
Definitely the biggest turning point
All right.
by far.
All right.
Yeah.
All right, that's actually a good one for the podcast. So take him for example. So here we go to, he plays grade 8 for me. So he played some games he didn't play and all this other stuff, right? And it was an okay year for him because when I took over the team, he was a starter.
Yeah.
Yeah, like don't get like let's not
He
get
played.
twisted. I wasn't like a bad player. You just came and I stayed on the bench. I was like a really good player, and then he came, and then I went on the bench. It's a big difference. All right. Okay. Yeah.
So, I saw him and I thought he was, too weak, too soft, too X amount of other things that I didn't like. And I'm like, look, we're going to do this, and you're either going to change or you're not going to change. So he didn't play. Yeah, great. You played some and some didn't. It wasn't that great. Definitely not the role he had before, but he managed. But his parents were huge supporters of everything I've done.
Yeah.
Yeah. They never had a
Never said it.
Yeah.
And him and I always had this relationship, right? So then in grade 9, is it grade 9 or grade 8? No, grade 8. Grade 8, we go to University of Windsor.
Yeah.
We went all the way, I think, to the finals or something, semifinals, finals of OBA back then. It was like a big thing, man. Everybody came, university coaches and all. It wasn't like now, right? So we go there, and I remember his parents came, his grandma.
And my grandma from Serbia, man. Right, she flew across the goddamn world to come see me.
Okay, now you're putting it look bad. Anyhow, so then we play, and I don't put him at all. Did you see him play?
0 minutes played.
For the whole tournament.
Yeah, the whole tournament.
The whole tournament. And then we did really, really well. At that point, we already developed this style of basketball that we're doing, pass, cut, replays, progression, all these things that we do, and they look really good, right? So even though the entire team gets invited to the Team Ontario tryouts.
Entire team.
Everybody.
Yeah.
Like, they did so well, they were like a completely different style of basketball. So everybody gets invited, and then they did a first weekend.
Yeah, it's like, I don't know, let's say 150 kids.
150
and the
kids.
first weekend,
They cut it to 100.
Yeah, cut down, whatever. Yeah.
Everyone makes it. Every kid on the team, except him.
I was like, yeah, you could have just give me a spot, just be with the team.
He's the only one that gets cut. And that's where, for example, I remember that I saw that. And then I remember we were having a practice.
The fast code.
Yeah, we were having a practice. And at that time, for example, I was like, okay, I'm driving. And that time you should ask, do I ever reflect? Yeah. And I'm driving.
It's like a day or two after.
I don't think I even told you this. I'm driving and I'm like, okay, now I got to do something because he might quit. But
and I was very close.
It was a hard one to take.
Yeah.
Like, he didn't play. It's going to be hard for me to explain to him now to believe in what we do because the result, you know what I mean? One thing is for him to believe in what I will give him time, but he can also connect in his head, well, what you're doing doesn't work because I'm getting cut from everything, right? So then I'm walking in, and his mom waits for me at the door.
Because I was at home
First time ever.
depressed.
First time, never talked to his mom about anything other than life.
Yeah.
His parents and me were like, we never talk about basketball. Not even now.
Yeah.
So mom is like, oh, it's bad. It's, he punched the wall.
I moved my bedroom from upstairs to the basement. I was like, nobody come down there. Like, I was literally in a little depression, like a 14-year-old, 15-year-old depression.
and comes in. And at that point, mom tells you all this, and I'm like, well, this is. And at that point, there was like, well, here's that moment. Either you fall off the cliff, or
Yeah.
you go over and rebuild yourself. And I remember, our conversation was, but when I saw him, I knew. I'm like, that man quit. We had like a short conversation.
Yeah.
Like we talked about, I told him, typical stuff that I would say,
Yeah.
fuck, they know, like that type of like, oh, look at the fucking coach, like, like
Yeah.
it doesn't matter, like forget them, like it doesn't really matter, just freaking team interior, who cares, blah blah blah, like and he like, he's just gonna keep doing it. It was a short conversation, maybe 3-4 minutes, maybe about it. And then where he really excels is that he just went this way in effort and training, and trained more and came more sessions. And then after that, in grade 10, he played more. By the time grade 11, 12, he was best out of all of them, like even better than Fiando was in those ages. Fiando had the same thing. Yes, Fiando had the same thing.
Fiando had the same thing, but at a different point.
Fiando got hit in grade 11. We went to USA, he didn't go.
And then rose up.
Because he wasn't, and at that point, he also just took it in the face, and again, also started going to more sessions, going 6 days a week, training. And then he also did, I think that's you're going to hit that point.
Yeah.
You're going to hit that point where you're going to have to decide what you want to do in anything. And then,
But I do
That
wonder,
was-
I do wonder though, like if this is 2024 and you're grade 8, a new coach comes in, I'm like one of the best players on the team, and all of a sudden I'm like on the bench, glued to the bench.
Mhm.
Do you probably move teams?
For
Like if it's like nowadays, obviously you are who you are.
yeah,
But then does that change with all these other things
yeah. I think
around you?
obviously when you're sitting here in this situation
Yeah,
and talking, it's easy to say, but I honestly do believe, because of what he said, the way my parents are, and the
You would.
the voices that I would have instructing me on how to, make my decisions would be the same regardless of the time, because it's
Yeah.
just my family. So I think maybe I'd be much more tempted, probably because of the options, but I think at the end of the day, I'd still stay exactly where I was. And like he said, when that whole thing happened, my parents supported me, but they also weren't coddling me, and it was just a thing inside me where I decided that, it's just going to piss me off even more. I'm going to work even harder. And I think if that's 2012 or 2024, I think that inside me would be the same, to just attack it kind of head on. So
I guess we'll never know.
I guess when
Mind you, in grade 8, he looked like this.
it's pointing to the tripod, by the way.
He looked like a tripod. His legs and arms were like the tripod legs. So
I was a nimble guy.
Um,
Yeah, but
anyway.
historic.
All right.